USC faculty are gathering to show their support for free speech on campus.
Annenberg TV News is next.
USC faculty are gathering to march through campus demanding the right for all students to peacefully protest. Hi, I'm Vincent Amonte.
And I'm Julia Zara. The group is condemning last week's on-campus arrests and the decision to call in the LAPD to make those arrests. Reporter Liv Kelleher is live outside Bovard Auditorium right now, where concerned faculty are calling for the university to drop all outstanding charges against students, faculty, and staff who were taken into custody. Liv, what can you tell us?
Yes, as you can see, there is a group of professors starting to gather right here outside of Bovard Auditorium. This is a cross-curricular group of professors. They're dressed in the regalia, and they plan to start a march around campus. In a flyer detailing the reasons for their protest tonight, they have 3 calls to action. 1, they want to show their undying support for free speech for students on campus here at USC. 2, they're condemning USC's use of LAPD to break up last week's protest. And 3, they're calling on administration to drop all charges against every student and faculty that was arrested here on campus last week. This march is about to start right here at 5 o'clock, so we'll continue to follow it throughout the rest of the evening. We'll monitor, see where they're going. For now, we'll go back to you in the studio and we'll come back to us with some updates.
Thanks, Liv. Well, across the city, UCLA students have set up encampments of their own. The university has stated the encampment is unlawful and threatens consequences, including suspension for those who do not disperse.
Yeah, that's right. UCLA is the first in the University of California system to take action against an encampment. As a result, there were various violent things happening last night.
Right. Well, last night around midnight, violence erupted on UCLA's campus between pro-Palestinian protesters and pro-Israeli protesters. A large group tried to tear down barriers surrounding the encampment, and campers rallied to defend their site. Counter-protesters hurled objects into the encampment, while pro-Palestinian demonstrators used pepper spray to defend themselves. Fireworks were also launched into the camp.
The LAPD arrived on the scene nearly an hour after the fights broke out. UCLA has canceled all classes today.
Well, let's go see what Liv Kelleher is doing right now in front of Bovard. Looks like people are really starting to gather there. What can you tell us, Liv?
Yes, protesters and professors primarily are starting to gather here. We do have one professor starting to make a speech right behind us. And as you can see, you see professors dressed in the regalia. There's a bit of pomp and circumstance to that, really owning that title as a professor here at USC. There are some professors in their neon vests to identify this group. Like we said, it's going to start marching through campus. The plan is to move around campus, make it to the outside of campus to talk with some outside media sources who are currently not allowed to come into campus. There are fences all around campus blocking things off, so this group is going to make their way around, do their best to try to talk to some outside people. We do have some media liaisons from the Divest from Death encampment, which is just across the way. We're going to continue to try to talk to some professors later here today. There is a speech happening, like we said. We're going to keep an eye on this and hopefully talk to some professors in the next coming minutes. Back to you guys over there in the studio.
Yeah, so Liv, obviously the faculty are starting over here by Bovard, and obviously right across the way from Bovard are a lot of the pro-Palestinian students who are doing their encampment right now. Are you seeing any kind of support from these pro-Palestinian students who are on campus right now? Are you seeing them interact at all with any of the faculty? What's that kind of looking like right now as this kind of march is starting to go underway?
There seems to be some students coming over to listen to the professor that is speaking. There has been a media liaison from the Divest from Death encampment over on stage right now. We have seen some people kind of trickling over, wanting to listen, wanting to see what this is all about. We do actually have one professor with us here now. Hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
Taryn McPherson.
And Taryn, what school do you teach at?
I am the HMH Endowed Professor in Censorship Studies in the School of Cinematic Arts.
Great. Now, can you tell me a little bit about why you chose to come out today and support students on campus?
I came out for multiple reasons. First, as I think all the faculty are here to support freedom of assembly and freedom of speech. I also am appalled that police were called on campus Wednesday and Saturday, for peacefully protesting students. And I also believe that the university needs to divest from Israel.
Absolutely. And what about the students and faculty that were arrested last week? What is the call to action there?
We are working in multiple fronts to try to have those charges dropped, and also to the union has filed a labor complaint against the university for unfair labor practices for the graduate students who were arrested.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. We'll keep an eye on talking to a few more professors throughout the day. Like we said, there are some three main calls to action here. It is protecting free speech, it is calling on the campus and condemning them for their use of LAPD, and calling to drop those charges against protesters. We'll keep an eye and see if anything changes over here.
Thanks, Liv. Well, you mentioned earlier that academic regalia vests were also encouraged for faculty being there today. Are you seeing LAPD presence there right now because they're wearing those vests to sort of delineate them from other protesters?
Seeing really any LAPD presence at all. There is a helicopter overhead right now. We don't know if that's news or LAPD, but as of right now, really not a strong presence from DPS or LAPD. Haven't seen any signs of that yet tonight.
Thanks, Liv. Well, last night saw violence across the coast as well as pro-Palestinian protesters clashed with the NYPD at Columbia. Yesterday night, the NYPD moved in and cleared the encampments at Columbia University. Police removed protesters and their tents from Columbia's lawn and from a university building. Police there say about 50 people were arrested inside Columbia's Hamilton Hall. They say more than 100 protesters were arrested in total. New York Governor Kathy Hochul said the NYPD acted professionally and fairly, and, quote, "It could have been a lot worse."
Drone shots showed the campus lawn here where the encampment started on April 17th. This video from earlier this morning shows the campus after it was cleared of protesters. Columbia's Hamilton Hall was the building many of the protesters occupied on April 30th. Columbia faculty also took to campus this morning to protest the presence of the NYPD on campus. They chanted shame, directed at Columbia's president, and held signs saying, "Hands off our students." Now, we return back to Liv Kelleher over at Alumni Park to see what's kind of happening, what's evolving right now as the march is on its way.
Liv, what can you tell us?
So things are pretty much the same here. Still, this group gathering, listening to some speeches. If you've been on campus this week, you've probably seen some new fences around campus. There has been added security measures around campus. Most of the entrances to campus are closed, and the perimeter has been walled off with these 6-foot fences. Added security, but it is a bit of an intimidation to students, making them feel a little bit more tense on campus this week. Adding to that rising tension on campus are these new fences that are being erected along main thoroughfares, including 34th Street and McClintock Avenue. 6-foot chain link fences are now circling the School of Cinematic Arts and other buildings, along with stages and tents for the 47 commencement ceremonies scheduled to take place across campus next week. Over the weekend, most of the entrances to campus were closed, shuffling students into just 2 entrances where security guards check IDs and only students, faculty, and staff are permitted in. Earlier today, President Carol Folt also announced that metal detectors would be placed at those entrances as soon as possible and ahead of graduation. A designated free speech zone has been erected behind Levy Library following last week's protests. In a community update on Thursday, President Folt said the university has, quote, unshakable commitment to free speech. And the free speech area is for peaceful protest. But the area is smaller, and so far, demonstrators with the Gaza Solidarity encampments are still concentrated to Alumni Park.
Thanks, Liv. Well, you did mention that free speech zone, and you said that a lot of students really aren't utilizing it. Can you tell us anything about what the students there are saying about the free speech zone? Do they feel like it's limiting the amount of space that they're allowed to take up there?
Yeah. So when we were over by the free speech zone earlier today, it was completely empty. There was not a single student there, while Alumni Park does remain pretty populated by students. So it doesn't seem like people are really willing to make that transfer over to that new free speech area. Carol Folt did say that that is going to be the area where free speech is, going to be happening, but it doesn't seem like protesters are willing to make that move right now. Like I said, totally empty earlier today. There are 2 porta potties there, outdoor facilities for protesters, but not being utilized at the moment.
Thanks, Liv. Well, you also mentioned, fences being erected around campus, but we also saw fences being erected around, iconic statues like Tommy Trojan, Traveler. Are you seeing any graduates there still continuing to take their photos in the midst of this crisis?
So earlier today, there were some students. There's actually some students at Tommy Trojan right now. But, it is walled off. Earlier, there were some people cleaning Tommy Trojan, Traveler. There are some students there right now. Before this group congregated in front of Bovard, there was a pretty large group of friends taking photos here. So students are trying to take advantage of those iconic locations on campus. But obviously, it's a little harder to get to. There are, shorter metal fences around those sort of main areas that students are taking photos at. But still some people there. There's actually a pretty large group gathering right now in all white in their sashes, hoping to get their graduation photos in, but definitely a little bit of a different experience than other years.
Yeah, and Liv, can you walk us through what the atmosphere is feeling like right now? Last week's protest left a lot of our own Annenberg Media reporters kind of feeling uneasy and kind of scared throughout all this. How's the vibe feeling, the atmosphere feeling of this march right now?
Yeah, it feels very communal. I mean, it's refreshing to see professors out here. We actually have a professor here with us now who's going to chat with us a little bit. What's your name?
Robert Worth. I'm an associate professor in the sociology department here at USC.
Great, thank you so much, Robert. So tell me a little bit about kind of the energy that you've spoken about with professors, kind of the goal of today's protest.
The goal of today's, I'm not sure we're even calling it a protest so much as an assembly and a march, is to support students and actually everybody on campus's free speech rights, right to free assembly, and opposition to the arrest of students for exercising free speech, like opposition to the LAPD being called in and arresting 93 of our students last week. I think that's why we are here today, to support students' right to free speech without arrest by the LAPD.
And, we saw last week, the kind of horrific scenes of LAPD coming onto campus. Have you ever seen anything like that here at USC, and kind of what was your reaction last week?
No, I've been at USC for 2 years, but I've never seen anything like that during my time here or at any of the other universities I've worked at prior to USC. And my reaction was, I was upset, I was disturbed. I thought we definitely should not be calling the LAPD to come in and arrest students for exercising political free speech.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you talking with us.
Thank you.
Yep. So, still talking to professors, like we said, they're not really calling this a protest, more of a demonstration, but again, wanting to protect free speech, and really there's been a lot of discontent with the calling of LAPD to campus. We're hearing that echoed a lot through the professors we're speaking with, but like I said, a very communal event here. It's good to see professors out. I think people feel pretty protected and supported in this moment.
Yeah, and Liv, obviously, a lot of these situations have been covered heavily by a lot of outside journalistic groups across the city of Los Angeles, and with campus obviously being closed to only student personnel. What's it kind of looking like with the outside media? Are we seeing any reporters on campus right now? Are we seeing any kind of the outside camera crews out front by the gates at all? What's kind of the other outside journalism pieces looking like on campus right now?
Yeah, I'm really only seeing Annenberg Media around us right now. Annenberg Media has been covering this around the clock, and right now with the limitations to outside media sources, it's really been this core team of Annenberg Media journalists who are covering this event and covering what's happening across the way at Alumni Park. As of right now, I don't see really any other camera crews. Last Wednesday, everyone was here. We saw pretty much every station in LA here on campus. Right now, it's really just us. So we're going to do our best to cover this as fully as we can, and hopefully as the group makes its way to the perimeter of campus, there'll be some more outside media sources. But as of right now, I'm really just seeing Annenberg Media here. Right,
and again, there is a helicopter circling above right now. And there's no confirmation of whether or not this is an LAPD helicopter or a kind of media helicopter. Is that right, Liv?
Yeah, we're not quite sure. I can't confirm, but there actually are 2 helicopters overhead right now, one hovering right above Alumni Park, one a little bit further in the distance. I can't exactly tell who it is. It does look to be blue in color, so no confirmation there, but there are 2 helicopters circulating. They've been here for the last few minutes.
Thanks, Liv. Well, you mentioned, the difficulty of outside journalists being able to, or I guess rather not being able to come onto campus. That really is a result of the university's move to make student IDs required for anybody coming onto campus. There's only 2 entrances. Was it difficult for even you to get onto campus today? What was that like?
It has been very difficult. We've heard a lot of students be frustrated with the fact that they don't know how to get into campus. They're late for their finals, they're late for their classes. You've got to walk a long way to get into one of the few entrances that are open. So it has been impacting students, it has been causing some frustration, but in the large scheme of things, if you kind of know where you have to go, you can plan for that. And over the next couple of days through finals, students just are going to have to plan to be a little inconvenienced right now to be able to get onto campus safely.
Yeah, and Liv,
we do. We do have a professor
Liv,
here that wants to chat with us. Hi, can I get your name?
My name is Mark Schufs, and I'm an associate professor of journalism at Annenberg.
So Mark, tell me a little bit about the importance of journalists on campus, specifically student journalists, being free to report on what's happening here.
It's critical. Right now, the university is not allowing journalists from the Los Angeles Times or from LAist or from any other news organization onto campus. You are our eyes and ears. So you've always been important, but now you're more important than you've ever been. And I'm really, by the way, as a professor at Annenberg, I'm really proud of you and of the Daily Trojan and of all the student journalists who have been covering these events.
It's been a very big push here, and I'm curious again about what you're protesting or demonstrating for and what kind of those key calls to action are for USC administration.
Well, this protest is for free speech. There are people who support every single one of the demands of the folks in the encampment, and there are people who support probably none of their demands. That doesn't matter. What matters is that students and faculty have a right to protest. And so the reason for this gathering is to say that we as faculty members support free speech. We do not agree with the decision to cancel the valedictorian's speech, and we feel that calling in the LAPD to stop a protest was heavy-handed. And so we are here to support the right of people to express themselves peaceably, no matter what their point of view, as long as it is not hate and as long as it is not violent. Those are our red lines. But anything within that, you have a right as an American and as a student of USC to say. That's why we're here.
And speaking of graduation, just tell me a little bit about what you're wearing here, the regalia, and why you guys chose to make that part of tonight.
Well, we made it tonight so that we could sort of say we were faculty. This is a standard black robe. I have only a bachelor's degree. This is a bachelor's degree from my college. This robe symbolizes a bachelor's degree from the college where I went to school.
Thank you so much. It looks like we're about to start marching. Appreciate your time. We're going to go ahead and follow this. Thank you. So they are starting to march here. We're going to move along with them, kind of see where this group is going. Looks like a pretty big group has formed, like we said, in their regalia, in their vest, making a plan to move throughout campus. As you can see, a fairly large group of professors have gathered here. Like Mark was saying, not only does the regalia identify them as professors, but it also shows sort of an importance for education. And that's what a lot of these protests have been about, is supporting students, supporting free speech, and also supporting students in Gaza. So this crowd is starting to move. We do see professors. We see some professors with their kids. We see families, people holding signs. One in particular saying, "Drop the charges," referring to the arrest that happened last week. And, this is really about celebrating free speech and supporting students and making sure they feel like they are allowed to peacefully protest on campus, regardless of their point of view. And we're hearing that echoed through many of the people we're speaking to tonight.
Thanks, Liv. Well, we do know that Mark Schoofs was one of many professors who signed an open letter to the USC Annenberg community, sort of expressing their support for free speech, for the right to assemble and things like that. And so it's really interesting to see him now going and doing that in person. Now, do you know exactly where this protest is, or sort of this march is heading right now?
So right now, it looks like the protest is moving away from Bovard towards Founders Park and towards the front of campus. We've heard that they're going to be moving to the perimeter of campus, so it looks like we're kind of making our way there now, potentially to have the chance to talk to some people who are not able to make it into campus. But right now, just walking past Founders Park, walking past Alumni Park, where the Gaza Solidarity Encampment is still going on its 7th day of gathering, and just continuing to make our way towards the perimeter of campus.
Thanks, Liv. Do you know approximately how many faculty and staff we're seeing there right now?
It's hard to say. I would say there's definitely, probably well over 40 to 50, and that's probably a low estimation. It looks like at the front of this group are the professors, and then towards the back of the group looks like potentially family members or other students that are also here in support of the faculty. We'll try to get a count on that for you, but right now, looking to be, probably above 50 at least.
Yeah, so Liv, this march is obviously having this end point of heading towards the edge of campus to talk to outside media. Are you seeing any outside media as the march is slowly beginning to head to kind of the main gate at all? Are you seeing any of that?
No, not yet. No outside media yet that we've seen. We still are kind of in the heart of campus, so that could potentially change as we get a little closer out. But like we said, we have these new fences around campus. We have, new protocols to get into campus with IDs being required. So the chance of outside media coming in seems very slim. But hopefully when we get out there, we will see some more media that these professors can have a chance to talk to and share their point of view on what's happening here at USC.
And for those of you now just tuning in right now, we are watching live the faculty march across campus right now in solidarity with a march to shout for free speech here on campus. Liv, kind of going back to you here with this march, right as it began, we heard some claps from what appeared to be students, and throughout this walk with your team here, we've been seeing a few people on the sidelines kind of watching this march go by. There appears to be a student presence here. Is this presence being fairly supportive of these faculty? What are we kind of getting from a sense of USC students here on campus when it comes to this march?
Yeah, the students have gathered into the march. As you can see, a lot of people back here look to be a bit younger, look to be students, and they're really kind of joining the professors and joining them in that walk. So definitely supportive. We see some people carrying some signs, some Free Palestine signs, definitely a mix of ages. There are some young kids here as well. So it looks like there's probably some family members alongside the students, but it does seem to be like the students are joining the professors in solidarity, and the professors are joining the students in solidarity.
Thanks, Liv. Well, there's definitely some sort of union going on right here. We see a lot of signs with that demonstrators are holding. Can you tell us what in particular those are saying? Is it for free speech? Is it for, our valedictorian, Asma Tabassum? Can you tell us exactly what they say?
So it's definitely been a mix of signs. There's many people carrying Free Palestine signs, but we've also seen some signs that call for dropping charges. We've seen signs that say divest and calling on USC to divest. We have seen signs in support of free speech. So it seems to be a mix of sort of sentiments on those signs, but really echoing support for free speech, I think, first and foremost, and then we are seeing a lot of Free Palestine signs as well.
Yeah, right, Liv. Right now, obviously, we're heading towards a kind of turn of the road here, the front gate straight ahead. Does it seem like the faculty are starting to head straight towards the gate, or are we seeing kind of a pivot towards another side of the perimeter of campus?
It looks like faculty are moving towards the gate, but as you can see here, these are the these are the fences we were talking about earlier, these 6-foot fences. So these are all around campus right now. You can kind of exit here, but when you get to the front of campus, those gates are closed. But these fences are surrounding the perimeter of campus, and they seem like not that intimidating, but when you're walking into class, it does certainly change the landscape of school. So we are seeing these everywhere, and that's sort of adding some of the tension here. But that group is kind of walking right through to the very front of campus. Typically where you would exit and go over to the village, it is closed, but the group is moving that way right now.
Thanks, Liv. Yeah, well, you mentioned these signs being sort of intimidating, but looking at the footage here, we're also seeing looks like really young kids being here, following potentially their families. Could you predict whether or not faculty brought their children to this protest as well?
I haven't seen any faculty holding their children where I could specifically identify that is their children, but there are several young kids here, and I'm assuming that they're with their parents. I don't think they're here on their own, so I would guess that some of these kids are children of the faculty, but can't confirm that. We haven't really seen any faculty in their regalia that's identifying them as professors holding any children, but like I said, there is sort of a family energy here right now.
Yeah, thanks, Liv. So we're right now at the front gate of campus. Are we seeing any of the faculty speaking to any press who might be standing there out front of the gate? Are we seeing any kind of press over there by that front gate?
So we are working our way in closer to the front of this group. It does look like there is someone speaking at the front of the group. We're going to try to get in there a little bit closer to see if we can kind of get a better read of what's happening here. I do see quite a few professors up here, and they're at the very front of the gate right now. Doesn't look to there is some media outside of the gate. We are seeing a camera kind of pop over the other side of the gate. We can't identify who it is right now, but certainly it looks like there is a professor speaking over the gate to some reporters, or at least someone with a pretty large camera.
Thanks, Liv. Well, definitely an interesting perspective, sort of looking from the inside out there. Well, in an academic setting meeting today at 2 p.m., USC Provost Andrew Guzman broke down who exactly was arrested last week. When asked how many were arrested last Wednesday, Provost Guzman said a total of 93 were arrested. 51 people were USC students, 36 were non-USC affiliates, and 6 were unknown. Provost Guzman added that USC has not moved forward with disciplinary hearings for those arrested.
And at the Academic Senate meeting held this afternoon, President Folt said that she would address the decision to remove the valedictorian speech and bring LAPD to campus. She said, quote, "When things get really risky and get really difficult, you get to make one choice. Would we even make the same decision or a different one, given what we know now?" Folt continued, quote, "When I make a decision, I never think that is the only answer. I second guess, third guess myself. But in the end, I try and believe that I'm making a decision that is going to protect our students and our community.
President Folt isn't the only person commenting on university protests. California Governor Gavin Newsom said in a statement issued today, quote, "I condemn the violence at UCLA last night. The law is clear. The right to free speech does not extend to inciting violence, vandalism, or lawlessness on campus." Meanwhile, LA Mayor Karen Bass also responded to the violence, saying, quote, "I want to make sure the message I delivered to law enforcement and other officials earlier today is clear. Free speech will be protected, and violence and bigotry will not."
And now we're going to toss it back over to Liv Kelleher, who's right now with all the faculty. Liv, what's it looking like right now with the march?
So right now, Professor Devin Griffiths is speaking. He's an associate professor of English and comparative literature. He is making a speech at the front of campus, and NBC4 is right outside filming this. So they are achieving their goal of speaking to outside media who has been limited from entrance on campus right now. Here's a bit from his speech.
Yeah, hopefully we can listen in a little bit onto what this professor is saying right now.
rather than a small number of peacefully assembled students in tents, has been the lone source of disruption to university activities. We protest the university's unilateral decisions and the rejection of principles of shared governance, including faculty, students, and staff. We demand that President Carol Folt, Provost Andrew Guzman, and Senior Vice President Errol Southers publicly apologize both to our valedictorian, Anna Tabasum, and those students and faculty whose well-being and safety have been compromised by the administration's actions. We demand that the university administration reaffirm their commitment to academic freedom and public debate. We demand that the university pledge to not call the police on peaceful protesters. We demand that the university demonstrate their commitment to shared governance by taking tangible steps to involve faculty and students in decision-making on issues of campus safety and freedom of expression. And finally, we express our unequivocal support to our students whose passion for justice and curiosity about our world should be regarded and rewarded and honored fully by our university. You're here. That's the statement that we worked out. We are all honored, I think, by how many faculty have arrived today and marched for the safety of our students and for the right to freedom of speech and peaceful expression on our campus. This is the official statement. If you would like to speak with any faculty, please address them directly. I'm sure some of them would be happy to talk with you. Thank you.
That was just a statement here given by a Dornsife professor. Liv, can you tell us, this protest is feeling very different than the one that we saw last week, on last Wednesday with students. It appears to be relatively quiet in the grand scheme of what we saw on our campus last week. Does the atmosphere match anything we saw last week?
Or you go online to Twitter, we have set up an account
more calm,
that is at United USC 24. The number's 24. That's at United USC 24, where you can find this statement, which is the summary of the demands that this march is making on the administration.
Okay, and you are?
And my name is Devin Griffiths. I'm an associate professor of English and comparative literature here at the University of Southern California.
Thank you for supporting the students. And who started all this?
The faculty is a collective. We've all been strongly galvanized and deeply angered by what we've seen our students face over the last week.
I know Professor Griffith has been something that, you've talked about, the freedom of expression. There are a lot of young minds here. How do you feel seeing them here night after night, day after day, and the university saying, hey, you guys have to pack up and go back to your dorms?
I feel personally proud that our students believe that they have a call to act in the ways that they choose. I also support their ability to act forcefully in making political speech, and I feel it is a privilege of a university to be able to offer that on their campus. It's a privilege that they recognize that our campus is a place where that should be able to happen. And most of all, I am outraged by any decision that endangers these students while they are acting out as the kind of citizens we've asked them to become.
How do you feel about the turnout? It looks like it's pretty heavy.
I'm relieved. Really happy. Yeah. Thank you.
Will you spell your name for us?
Sure. It's Devin, Devin, Griffiths, Griffiths.
Looks like you have faculty and students here.
We do. The faculty officially are on the march, but we told the students if they want to join us, we're not going to police their access to campus or their ability to walk with us.
How do you think
Throughout campus or come outside?
No, we're going to stay here. We're going to walk back to Bovard, the main area, and then we'll disperse at that point. Also, I should say, pretty darn hard to get on the other side of this fence right now. You have to go all the way around one way or the other, and these regalia are pretty high.
Excuse me, how this will last? How long it will last, in your opinion?
This political action? I think that's really up to the students and the administration to work out.
How do you think administration has handled communicating with students, with updates, what's happening on campus and graduation?
I think it took a long time for President Folt to actually meet with the student protesters. That was a serious mistake on her part. She actually acknowledged that that was a mistake when she met with faculty earlier today. And so I think that hopefully looking forward, they'll learn from those mistakes and they'll do a much better job at communicating with the students. All right, there are lots of people here I think you can speak with.
Can you just tell us where you gathered here?
Where?
You guys want an interview?
We're marching
Dan Feynman.
I know two professors here if you need to talk to anyone.
So as you can see, there's lots of professors here. They're really willing to speak with professors. Professors are willing to speak with students and with media outlets. And we have one right here we're actually going to speak with. Hi there. What's your name?
Dan Simon.
Dan Simon. And what do you teach?
I'm based at the law school with a joint appointment at psychology department.
So what brought you out today to join this demonstration?
The principles that should be guiding us is what brought me out, and that is universities are a place for growth, for debate, for protest, for figuring out what's right, what's wrong. And a number of students feel, understandably, that the United States policy is complicated and wrong in some ways, and that is their right to protest. And protests are going to happen in universities. They're not randomly assigned out there across the country.
What about this free speech zone that's been designated over here, over by Levy Library? Have you seen that, and do you think that that's an adequate sort of move by administration?
That's a bit bizarre, frankly. The whole country and certainly universities should be free speech zones. So it's a bit strange.
Do you think they're going to be able to force the encampment to move to that area?
It's really hard for me to tell. We've learned that predicting anything these days is a tricky business. But the problem is that when you have these conflicts that emerge, they tend to escalate. And certainly administration has not been great at de-escalating. And each side gets entrenched and feels that they cannot make concessions and cannot give up and have to show control. So these things get out of hand, and we're seeing this happening in front of our eyes.
Did you attend the earlier meeting today, the Senate meeting today on campus?
We watched it together as in a webinar form. The questions were all directed from the executive board. But yes, we did attend it.
And what was your reaction to what President Folt had to say today?
There were, I think it was a mixture of kind of defending their decisions and the institution's choices with a couple of small concessions of perhaps mistakes were made. But what I really think is going on is this big dynamic of other universities, particularly UCLA, our comparison, just with all hell breaking loose last night and really things turning super ugly. And that, I think, kind of, in a weird way, takes some of the heat off our administration. Maybe if the UCLA events had only happened one day later, we would have heard different responses. But that's kind of the problem, is that universities are looking at one another and saying, well, we're not the worst, and it's not only our problem, which might cause administrations to feel that they're not really accountable, at least not as much as we would like them to be.
Thank you so much for chatting with us. We appreciate your time.
Sure.
So like we said, there are a lot of professors still here gathering, willing to talk to students, willing to talk to media. We were talking about the academic senate meeting that happened earlier today, getting some, direct questions from professors to Carol Folt, getting professors' reactions here. We do have another professor that we're going to speak with right now. Hi there.
Hi.
What's your name?
I'm Professor Laurie Brand.
And Professor, what do you teach?
I'm actually emeritus, so I'm retired, but I was in the Department of Political Science, International Relations, and Middle East Studies.
So tell me a little bit about the importance of students being at the forefront of social justice movements like throughout time and specifically in this moment.
Well, I think, there's always been, you see sort of hope in a younger generation, and I think that this particular issue has really ignited the concern, the outrage, the passion of students across the United States, and not just people who have some sort of tie to the region, but students who also see in what's happening in Palestine parallels or historical echoes of things that have happened to people in the countries or the areas that they and their families originally come from. So it's really been an amazing moment. It still is. It's a dangerous moment in the United States, I think, but I'm really hopeful when I see the numbers of young people who are, willing to take a stand and who are really thinking through tough political issues.
So you did say that you're retired. What brought you back to stand in solidarity with your colleagues?
The students, the concern for the students and concern about this particular issue. I'm a professor of Middle East Studies, and so I've been engaged in work dealing with the region for a long, long time, my scholarship and also my own activism. So I never really left that, even though I retired. But I continue to maintain my ties with student activists here, and given what's been happening since the 7th of October, it was just natural to plunge back into more active involvement.
So the provost said that, faculty need to want to be part of the solution every day. Do you see that amongst your colleagues? I know you're retired, but do you see your colleagues wanting to actively be a part of this solution?
Yeah, I think that the degree to which faculty have taken an interest in what's happening to students on campus, and this has been something which is, it's a long-standing concern. I think if anybody is really concerned with the students, it's the faculty. Unfortunately, I don't see the same sort of serious concern. I hear a lot of, there's a lot of sort of lip service to concern about students from the upper levels of the administration, but it's really been faculty who've been on the ground, both in this, in this particular moment, but in other moments as well. We're the ones we're closer to the students. We're the ones that interact with them. We see their struggles, both intellectual as well as personal, and so I think it is something that committed faculty members. It's just a part of what they do as their professional lives.
So we did see last night really heightened violence on UCLA's campus. How do you think that compares to what happened here last week? And does that sort of raise any security or safety concerns for you or other faculties kind of seeing what's happening across town right now?
It raises concerns for me for the students because I don't live on campus. Although my colleagues and I will probably, some of my colleagues have been here off and on to be a presence to try and monitor, to try and document, and also be there as a support to students since this encampment began. But certainly what happened at UCLA last night is extremely disturbing. But it's not just at UCLA. We saw what happened at Columbia last night. We've seen what's happened at UT Austin. These episodes of various forms of security violence, whether it's the campus police, whether it's the local, or metropolitan police that are being introduced to campuses. It's extremely disturbing. What happened in UCLA last night, of course, was that the peaceful encampment was attacked by a bunch of thugs, and the security forces just stood by and sort of let it happen. So what we had on campus here was the DPS trying to clear the encampment and introducing violence by doing that. What was a peaceful encampment. So it's very concerning, and this is continuing to spread throughout the country, and I'm afraid we're going to continue to see episodes like that. I hope that this demonstration today, as well as some of the discussions that have begun with the president, may help lead to a different outcome here on this campus. I think it's possible to have productive, peaceful discussions when we're dealing with students who are engaged in peaceful protest.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. So faculty is still gathering here. Like we said, professors are very much in support of that freedom of speech, of that peaceful protest, and working together towards a solution to de-escalate and make sure that students feel heard here on campus. Like we said, professors are really willing here to engage in discourse, talk to the media, talk to other students, and that really seems like what tonight's gathering is about, is making sure students feel heard, making sure professors feel heard, and really encouraging a space where people can come and ask questions and have that dialogue. And that really is the environment that's happening here. The free speech zone, it seems to be everywhere on this campus right now, not just in that designated area. I think we're going to have a few more professors that we'd like to speak with. We're going to bring someone over right now. Hi, I'm Olivia.
I'm Devin.
Nice to meet you, Devin. So tell me a little bit about the organization of today's events, kind of who came together and made sure that this all happened very smoothly.
It's really just a bunch of faculty who know each other from various groups, including both service through the various faculty councils and academic senate, the group concerned faculty that was really active during some previous scandals. So a lot of us just know each other, and we really care about the university. And when we saw what was going on, we started emailing each other trying to figure out what we could do.
And tell me a little bit about sort of the reaction to graduation being canceled and sort of the faculty reaction to that, and if that could have been avoided, if there was a better way to handle that.
Well, first of all, we think it was a terrible mistake to disinvite Tabasum from making her commencement address. I think that was the beginning of everything. We don't understand why, if we can secure campus for Barack Obama, we can't secure campus for one of our students. And we think it's a huge disappointment to our students who've worked so hard over the years, who, as you know, experienced COVID, lockdowns, probably had a really weird graduation from high school, and now these graduating seniors don't get to experience the fullness of what that experience is supposed to look like. So it's sad.
And there's a lot of professors out here today. Are there any professors sort of worried about their own job security, especially those vulnerable, non-tenured professors?
Yeah, there are a lot of faculty here who worry about blowback. Even faculty here are showing up anyway. But I think everyone considers it so important that they want to participate in whatever ways they feel comfortable doing. That's why we had such a good turnout. Okay?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Nice talking to you.
So like you said, like he said, faculty are still here, even though they're a little nervous. We're going to have a little bit of conversation before we move back around campus right now.
How do you guys feel about that?
Thanks, Liv. So it looks like a lot of different professors are very willing to speak with media. Is there any word about when exactly they're going to start looping around there? And are they going to be willing to talk to reporters, or at least you, the reporter, once they get back to Bovard?
Oh, we're going to talk with an interview?
Yeah.
Liv,
do they want me to
are you seeing the march starting to make its way back to Bovard right now?
Yes, it looks like the march is about to make its way back through campus, kind of the reverse direction of where we just were. I did hear a professor say that they want to go around the pro-Palestine solidarity encampment, so we probably will pass by that. The group is starting to move. Like we said, lots of signs, lots of good energy here, people really willing to speak. There was some outside media that we did see. We actually do kind of see KTLA here right now. Lots of media opportunities for professors to get their voice out, and we are making that way back to the near Bovard right now.
Have you seen the march grow in numbers in any sort of way since you've been there?
It does look like it's grown. I've actually seen a few more professors that I know trickle in, and we actually did get confirmation that many of the kids here are children of faculty. So like we did say, there is this sort of family energy, and clearly if the professors are bringing their children to this event, they feel very confident that this is going to be peaceful, and it has been very peaceful. But like I said, good energy, feels like there's a lot of family vibes here. And, like we said, these professors came together to organize this. So they know each other, they want to support each other, especially those vulnerable, non-tenured professors. But yeah, it does seem to have grown quite a bit. There is a pretty big professor presence here, as well as students that we're seeing kind of joining in and joining into the march.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of signs. One professor just walked by, said had a sign that said LSAT, not LAPD. What other types of signs are we seeing faculty and maybe some students holding?
Yeah, we're seeing Professors for Peaceful Assembly, Drop the Charges. Broken trust was one that I saw, and I think that's been a pretty large sentiment here that we're hearing. A lack of trust in administration, a lack of trust in students' right to peacefully assemble and their safety on campus. So we're seeing signs like that as well. Like I said, many Free Palestine signs. That is at the core of what has kind of started everything last week on Wednesday, was that pro-Palestinian encampment that led to the LAPD arrests that were made. So we are seeing a lot of Free Palestine signs. But, like we said, there's a lot of emphasis on the right to education and the right to be able to protest freely on campus. So we're seeing a lot of signs that echo that sentiment.
Thanks, Liv. Do you know if there's going to be any other speeches that will be made once the faculty get back to Bovard?
We have not heard of any more coming up. It doesn't seem to be, we haven't heard of any planned programming. But like I said, I did just hear one of the professors say that they wanted to make their way back past the encampment to show solidarity with those who are still there at Alumni Park. So we are about to pass through that way now. We will keep an eye out for any more speeches, and we're going to hopefully be able to talk to a few more professors. But like we said, everyone's been very willing to speak, and they want to get their message out and make sure that their voices are heard, and they've been really willing to speak with us as well as the outside media at the front of campus.
And Liv, there's obviously a lot of professors here. Are we seeing all of them flocking towards Bovard? Are we seeing any kind of starting to disperse at all, or are majority of them beginning their walk back to Bovard Auditorium right now?
It seems like everyone is on their way back. No one is really lingering behind at the front of campus. There were a few people kind of talking to media at the front of campus, but it seems like everyone has kind of joined the group. It looks like the group has expanded quite a bit, and everyone's walking over back to Bovard right now. Like I said, still seeing kind of a good display of support from what looks to be family, as well as students, as well as the professors really leading the march in their regalia. So a good turnout. We did hear one of the lead organizers say that they were very happy with the turnout and relieved with the turnout, that they did get the support they were hoping for. And, we do see some, DPS presence on campus right here as we're getting up to Founders Park. They do have zip ties. They do have, clubs. They're right there. But as of right now, really no activity, but just kind of monitoring the scene. So we are seeing that right now. But like I said, really no major cause for concern. But they do have, those zip ties on their waists. We see, I think, about 5 DPS cars right now, just at the edge of campus, right outside of Founders Park. But they just seem to be kind of watching the protests move past.
Right, looks like we just saw some interaction between DPS and marchers. Are you still seeing any choppers above you?
So were you guys called into campus to monitor this protest? Okay, great. They're going to have me go talk to the chief right here. Let's see if I can get a quick question in with her.
Thanks, Liv. Liv, are you seeing any choppers above you right now?
Excuse me, question for you. Was DPS called in particularly to monitor today's protest, or this is just regular kind of presence?
This is just regular presence.
Regular presence. And do they typically have the zip ties on and the clubs? Is that regular presence?
It's regular presence at this point, yes.
Thank you. So like you said, like you just heard, they said this is regular presence. Typically don't see DPS with zip ties on their waist, but obviously things have been more tense on campus. We're seeing a lot of added security measures, so that seems to be one of the added security measures. But they are kind of staying stationary as we move back over to Alumni Park near the encampment.
Thanks, Liv. Reiterating, did you see any choppers continuing to circle you right now as marchers continue to make their way back to Bovard?
We're not seeing or hearing any choppers right now. They may have moved, but right now it's pretty quiet. So nothing overhead at the moment, which seems like the first time in a while that it's been a little bit quiet. But yeah, no choppers right now.
Yeah, and obviously right now we're seeing the faculty kind of converging with the encampment right now. What's it kind of looking like right now down there?
So, like we said, this is day 7 of that encampment. Obviously, right now, professors are kind of gathering in the front of the encampment at the moment. We actually do have someone who's willing to chat with us a little bit about the Solidarity encampment. Hi there.
Hello.
So tell me a little bit about day 7 and how long that you guys have been out here and kind of how you've persisted after everything that happened last week.
Well, even after the brutal repression that Folt's administration enacted on our own students, we're still out here. We're sleeping here night after night. We feed our students 3 times a day. And it's been heartening to see the faculty out here in support of us. Obviously, they support freedom of speech, but let's not forget, freedom of speech is not the ends, it is a means. And it is a means for us to speak out about the genocide that's occurring in Gaza.
Thank you. And tell me a little bit about those conversations with President Folt. Did the group here feel like that was satisfactory? Are you hoping for another meeting? When is that going to happen?
As we said in our statement, our negotiations with Folt have been deeply, deeply, deeply disappointing. She would rather engage in semantics than actually engage with our demands. She wants to talk about what a genocide is. We know what a genocide is. The UN knows what a genocide is. The international bodies know what a genocide is. Scholars know what a genocide is. In fact, the whole wide world knows what a genocide is, except, apparently, our administration. And we're not fighting for death. We're fighting for peace. We're fighting for love. We're fighting for Palestinian liberation. And we're fighting for the end of imperialism everywhere. We want people to live. And we want people to love one another and continue living. That's what we want.
Did you see that free speech zone by Levy Library? What were your thoughts on that?
Free speech zone. Wow. So it's a little zone where the First Amendment applies to a little area. Anyways. No comment.
And then what's next for the encampment, for your group? How long do you plan to stay here? What will it take to, reach an agreement with President Folt?
We don't want to win, we need to win. And we will stay here until our demands are met. We will continue negotiating, we will continue talking. Until we win. And until our complicity with the genocide in Gaza ends and Palestinian liberation occurs. And let us not forget, freedom for one people doesn't mean imprisonment for another. The freer that our brothers and sisters and people of the world are, the freer we are. Our solidarity is linked with each other, and I need to emphasize, this is about peace, this is about love, and we're fighting for that. And sometimes it's very, very hard to fight for the right thing, and Folt has made it so. In fact, the whole world has made it so.
And now, right now, things have been much calmer on campus since last week. But if things were to escalate again, are people willing to get arrested again if it came to that?
Well, I can't disclose to you those things, but from what I do here at the encampment, what I hear from these brave students who are writing 20-page papers and studying for the exams while balancing being human rights activists, yes, we are willing to put our bodies on the line, and we are willing to fight for the end of genocide. If you ask that same question to protesters in '68 during Vietnam, what do you think they would say? Back then they were seeing that they were wrong, and now we see that they were right. And we act with that political and historical urgency again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And you can ID me as the USC Divest from Death Coalition media representative.
So yes, that was the USC Divest from Death media liaison. Like you heard them speak, can't disclose how long they will be here, but they are willing to continue to protest until they get what they want. We do have another student here that's willing to speak with us. Hi. Are you willing to, what's your name? Jesse and?
Lorenzo.
So tell me, how long have you guys been here and how long are you planning to stay?
Oh, we're not with the encampment group. We were just kind of hanging out and we saw the march, so we decided we support that. We saw the signs, of course, so we joined the march. Yeah.
We just want to do what we can to support the protests.
What was your reaction to graduation being canceled and sort of the administration's reaction to what happened last week here at the encampment?
I think it was really unnecessary and over the top because it was mostly peaceful. I feel like things escalated when there was a reaction.
I agree. It shouldn't have been escalated that much.
And what about what's happening across town at UCLA? Were you able to follow any of that coverage? And sort of how does that compare to the environment here at USC?
Yeah, I did see that they were launching like fireworks and like explosives and stuff, and I hope it doesn't get like that here so far. I mean, it's been rough, but it's still stayed pretty tame, which I'm glad for.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you both so much. Appreciate you. So, crowd still gathering right here at Alumni Park. They are beginning to join each other in chant and song. We will go over there in a little bit to kind of see if there's any more speakers, but the group has congregated. They went from Bovard to the front of campus and then back here to where the encampment is still going strong on day 7. Lots of students, lots of professors standing together in solidarity, chanting and continuing to take up space and make their voices heard. And that has been what we've been seeing since we started this protest, really since last Wednesday when this encampment started. Like we said, some DPS presence here, but nothing really drastic. And as of right now, continuing to just kind of see what people are saying and make sure we're speaking to protesters and professors about their point of view and why they're out here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liv. Please stay safe out there. Annenberg Media will continue to cover the anti-war protests on campus as we lead up to commencement. Thank you for watching Annenberg TV News. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Vincent DeMonte.
And I'm Julia Zara. For more coverage, watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Annenberg Media. Good night.
Thank you.